Okay. Hello, Mike.
Hello, Chris.
Thanks for doing this podcast with me. Of course, I'm talking to you because not only are you my friend, but you're going to be one of the DJs who's going to be spinning at our Bin Chickens Record Fair coming up on June 15th at Rock Bottom Brewery downtown. So thank you for agreeing to do this event.
Oh, well, thank you for asking me. I'm honored. And so, what does Bin's Chickens mean?
Okay, so a bin chicken is in Australia, there are these birds called a white ibis, and they have really long beaks, and they go around all the dumpsters and garbage cans, and they dig through the garbage to get food and other stuff that they consume. So the Aussies nicknamed them bin chickens because they go into the garbage bins and they just look for trash.
Um,
Um, so that was where Julie and I first heard of it when we visited Australia earlier this year, and then she went out with me on a couple of record digs, and she got the idea that watching me dig through like 600 records to find maybe five good ones was like a bin chicken digging through tons of dumpsters just to find some decent food to eat. So
nice. I like that. It's,
yeah, I thought it was kind of clever.
yeah.
So that's what it is. So I was thinking of writing down questions for this interview, but I didn't do that. So I'm just going to kind of go off the cuff. I mean, first of all, did you come up with a new DJ name?
I've been working on it. Um, so far, we've got DJ Pinky Squeaks,
Okay.
uh, DJ Roperoni. So I'm not, I retired my old name because Magic Mike just wasn't working for me anymore. Yeah.
I was going to ask you what it was, so I'm glad that
Plus,
you
I'm gonna get
volunteered that.
confused. I don't want to be confused with Channing Tatum or whatever that guy's name is. So,
And you guys can be easily confused in a number of ways.
oh, totally, totally. You haven't
Not-
seen me with my shirt off, so good.
I'm looking forward to making that comparison myself one day. That'll be a red letter day.
Okay.
Um, I do like both Pinky Squeaks and Roperoni. I honestly, I don't know which one's in the lead right now, but they're both good.
Yeah,
So
those are both BMX freestyle trick names. So I figured
oh,
I combine the two somehow. So
now why would you? Now how do you know these terms, Mike? Are you interested in BMX riding?
I could be. I might be. Yes. In fact, I am.
That's good. So when did you first start DJing? How did you get into DJing at all? When did your interest start? What fueled you? Just tell us a little bit about your personal story with DJing.
Oh man. Well, I guess it all started with the breakdance craze of the 80s. Um,
Okay.
I was really into breakdancing. I would put cardboard all over my parents' or my mom's basement uh, floor and practice all day long, or at least try to.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and that kind of pulled me into the whole like hip hop genre and culture, and I just was really into it. And um, it just sparked that from there, and I kind of never lost interest since then. So and then when I got into high school, I had friends that were kind of in dance crews. So those dance crews need DJs. So a few of us would DJ for these dance crews, and we would do dance parties and stuff like that. So that's kind of how I got into it. But yeah, I don't. Yeah.
So so
So
let me ask you this: Were when you were in one of these dance crews, were you uh, recommended to be one of the DJs because you were one of the less talented b boys?
you could say that. You could probably say.
It just kind of struck me that they were like, okay, Mike, well, why don't you try getting behind the decks and seeing if you can play us some jams?
Well, I think it was the only one with turntables, so that probably helped out quite a bit too. So
That's another factor, I'm sure, that
yeah,
they consider.
I had the equipment, so ipso facto, whatever that is.
No, it makes sense. Um, okay, so so I didn't realize necessarily that you had experience with two of the four pillars of hip hop. You had the breakdancing, the DJing, Did you ever get into emceeing and or graffiti?
I wanted to be a graffiti artist, but I again have no skill. So I hung around with some graffiti kids, but never really did anything with it. So, and as far as emceeing, absolutely not. I don't want to embarrass myself. So,
Oh, okay. Well, that's
uh,
so how old were you when you started buying records? So you started buying records, I'm assuming, once you kind of went into DJing, once you were like, okay, I'm just going to start spinning.
yeah, well, I guess my first record shopping experience was probably when I was about 16 or 17 at Rolling Stone Records, because it
In
was the
Nor-
easiest place to get to. And at the time, they had a large select. I mean, they were all records,
yeah.
and had a large selection of house and dance music. And I got into that there, and then when I got a little older, and I had some friends that had their driver's licenses, we would drive into the city and explore, and we
Okay.
found this, which is later on I found out it's an iconic record store, is Imports Records, on it was on Plymouth and Congress,
Okay.
and this was like just straight up house record store. Um,
Yeah.
it was just a hole in the wall. There was no windows. It was just a sign,
Hmm.
and you would go in there, and they would have all the new releases. And in fact, when they would get a new release while you were actually in the store, they would hand it out to everyone, put it on, and if you liked it, you kept it and bought it. If you didn't like it, you just give it back. But
Yeah.
and then from there, we would go to gramophones. And at the time, it was the old gramophones that was down the street on Clark, kind of by the McDonald's, closer to the Wiener Circle.
Oh, I didn't know that it had moved from where it's currently at.
Yeah, yeah, it was. I can't remember the name of that little side street right there, but it was just one storefront in from the corner,
Yeah.
uh, kind of across the street where the Target is right now.
Yeah, Drummond, I think, might be the.
Okay, yeah, I don't remember the name of the street, but back then, like Derek Carter worked there,
Oh
DJ
wow.
Psycho Bitch worked there. It was just full of energy. It was just a great place to go. If you went there on the weekend, it was like busy. It was jam packed, and it
Yeah.
was mostly dance music, house music. Eventually, later on, they opened up the back of the store, and they had a larger hip hop section. Um, they had DJ spinning in there. They had a little DJ booth. It was just a great place to go to. So we would just hit there almost every weekend. Any chance I could go, I would be there. So
Now, you've recently told me that you prefer not to shop for records anymore when there's like crowds and a lot of people. So if this was jam packed, were you more down with that as a younger lad? You didn't mind the crowd so much?
probably, yeah. And I was kind of a wannabe. So like
Well,
there,
you're
I
always
just
looking at
wanted
that
to learn
makes
more and absorb more of it. And it was just cool to be there. I knew that this was the record store to go to if you were into that kind of music. So,
yeah.
uh, yeah. Now I'm just old and cranky, and I want people to get out of my way when I'm searching for records. And I always feel competitive when someone's in the same
Yeah.
aisle as I am looking for records. I'm like, oh, this fool's gonna find something before I find it, and I'm really upset about it. So that's why record store day drives me a little bit crazy, because I know there's people in front of me in line that are gonna get something that I want that is gonna
Yeah.
be gone by the time I get there. So
I I completely relate to the I get really irrationally angry when I'm digging through a bin and somebody sidles up even
oh
even like two rows next to me is like too close for me. And especially then I'm gonna watch how quickly they're going through the records, because if their rate of speed is faster than I am, I'm gonna be like, so what do I gotta adjust how fast I'm looking through like, in, like 4 seconds. And
exactly.
and I don't like, there'll be some people who will finish the bit next to you, and then they'll just like kind of like hover over your shoulder, like waiting for you to finish instead of
Yes.
going to some other part of the store. And I just
Oh,
sometimes
I
I'll just
slow
walk.
down at that point.
You start picking everyone out of the bin and
Yeah,
just examining the liner notes and
exactly. I read the whole back of the record, everything. So
um so okay, so do you have any early experiences that you remember that stuck out when you first started collecting? Either you found a really cool record, whether it was a gramophone or imports, a record that you were just so stoked to get, or that stands out in your memory now for any reason from those early years of collecting.
ooh, that's a good question. I can't really think of any offhand. There's so many, you know. I mean, when you find the, you know, back then you would hear all these songs in mixes, and you thought, you know, you don't know what it is exactly. You don't know what the name of it is, and a lot of the times, you know, when I would go to the record store, I'd have no clue what to look for. I just kind of, the good thing about gramophones back then is they had like a top 10, uh,
Okay.
uh, you know, on the wall. They would list the records as their top 10 of the week or whatever, or the month, and you would just grab whatever. And that's I kind of just grabbed whatever I thought was, you know, was it. And then eventually I found, oh yeah, that's the record I was looking for, or whatever. I can't think of anything specifically, but and at the time, it's really, I could have grabbed anything and I would have liked it, which is kind of weird to say. You know, I mean, my tastes evolve over the years, but back then I just wanted to absorb it all.
Yeah.
I just wanted to hear anything electronic, anything hip hop, anything house, acid, you know,
Yeah.
whatever. I just wanted to hear it, whether it was good or bad, I guess.
Yeah.
You know,
No, I understand that feeling. Um, do you mind telling us or giving us an idea of the era, maybe with some years of when you're talking about?
this is, well, I was a senior in '89 in high
Okay.
school. So that's when I probably really started shopping quite a bit. It was like 1989. And we were doing like house parties and, um, uh, you know, junior proms and stuff like that. So I had to uh, buy a lot of records because you have to play those parties. So you have to have enough records to
Yeah.
rock the party or whatever. So, um, yeah, I don't know. I don't know where was I going with that. I don't know. I
I
don't.
just wanted to get like a year, like an era of time. I wanted to kind of benchmark that, like when you started. Um, but 89 would have been a good year. The late 80s, early 90s, which
Definitely
was
late '80s, early '90s for sure.
yeah,
I was probably buying the most, and then I kind of took a hiatus, probably like mid '90s. Kind of got away from it
okay.
a
Just
little
life
bit.
change.
Yeah, you know, I had a job change. I was actually going to Columbia College for sound engineering, and I stopped going. So it was kind of like I was going through transitions at the time. So I didn't shop as much, I guess you could say.
Well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Um, uh, so when did you? Okay, so if you kind of dropped off for a bit there, how long was your hiatus, and what made you get back into it?
I've always never lost interest in it. I think I got more into wanting to try and um, make my own music, I guess you could say. So I looked into buying like a drum machine and a sampler and just to play around with stuff. And it got to the point where I was more satisfied sitting at home tooling around with my drum machine than going to the record store and trying to pick out stuff that I wasn't sure about. So,
Okay.
um, and then I guess as I um, as time went by, record stores actually started to fall off a little bit,
Yeah, yeah,
and then they started gaining strength again. And you know, with stores like Dusty Grooves, those kind of places really pulled me back into it. You know, I was like, wow, you know, vinyl is the best. It's
yeah,
it's it's the best. You know, our music is art, and vinyl is the best way to appreciate that art, I think, because you know it's not just the music, it's the cover art, it's all that stuff. And I don't know, I just turned back, I guess.
Yeah, yeah,
And all this digital stuff and CDs, they were just boring. It just didn't have any appeal. I didn't feel like I would go to Tower Records and pick up a few CDs and it just didn't feel the same. It just didn't feel right. So I pulled back into vinyl.
yeah. Well, first of all, I applaud that decision because vinyl is the best way to appreciate music. That's for sure.
Absolutely.
Um, I think with the and I've heard this a lot from other appreciators of vinyl, and I certainly agree with it myself. Something about the physical act of taking a piece of wax out of the sleeve, putting it on a turntable, putting the needle on there, and then hearing the sound just explode from the grooves itself. It's the tangibility of that whole procedure that just makes you feel like you have a stronger connection to it.
Right. And it's a warmer sound. It's
It is a
just
warm sound.
it's just better, I think. I mean,
Yeah.
I know,
Um,
like with the advancement of DJ equipment, you can do so much now with the
sure.
technology, with editing, with sampling, with all of that, and that's really great. I totally admire all that, but there's something about like a DJ that can just take two records and just remix it live right in front of you that has always blown me away. I've always been, you know,
Yeah.
turned on by that, interested by that, So
Um, it's certainly a lot easier nowadays with digital music. You could just bring your laptop to a gig and you have, 40,000 songs.
yeah,
Um, and then you've also got the ability to just download a song on the fly if you don't have whatever, obscure Travis Tritt record somebody's asking for.
right.
I don't know if I said Travis Tritt, but I think he's country. I hate country,
I have no
but
idea who Travis Tritt is.
I don't want to know who Travis Tritt is.
Okay.
But so that's an advantage in the sense that you're obviously much more able to rock any sort of party because your access is nearly unlimited. And it's a lot easier on your back, not having to, drag crates of records into every party. I mean, that's a real pain.
True.
But I kind of appreciate the effort that goes into the physicality of being a vinyl DJ more than just plugging in your laptop or throwing in your USB memory stick and just, you know, I don't know.
Yeah,
There's pros and cons to the technological evolution for sure. Um,
absolutely.
and I really am glad, you spoke to how vinyl did have kind of a downturn. Um, I would say probably from like the mid 90s, late 90s, certainly to like maybe the mid aughts is when it maybe started to turn around a little bit, the late
I,
aughts.
yeah, for sure.
Um, and it's nowadays and I don't have numbers to put to this to back it up, but I've read articles that have pointed out like the resurgence in vinyl over the last 5 years, how the sales have increased. Record Store Day this year, they sold more. They broke their own record from last year that they set for total vinyl sales.
Mhm.
Um, and a lot of younger people are getting into vinyl who weren't even alive when vinyl was the dominant form of music.
Right.
So that's exciting. That's exciting to me because again, I think it is the best way to listen to music. So the more people are into it for any reason whatsoever, if they're just chasing trends or trying to be cool kids, like I mean that's what we all try to do. So like I'm not going to be mad at people for doing it.
No,
Um, Whatever gets them into the game, it'll really resonate and stick with some of them, and they'll be the next generation of vinyl hounds that'll be talking about this when they're our age, which is
absolutely. Yeah. I think too, I admit that with technology, when it comes to like spinning like house music or dance music, the technology works better in a way for that kind of genre because you can do so much with that stuff, with that technology.
yeah,
Whereas, when you're mixing house and you're using records, your biggest advantage is if you have doubles, or
right,
something like that. But um, now with the DJ technology, you have a double right away. I mean, once you
yeah,
have a file, now you have two.
yeah,
So so I understand that, and I'll never dog like DJs who use new technology. I think that's great. I
Right.
think for some it's opened up quite a lot of, you know, quite a lot, but with others, I think sometimes they use it as a crutch a little bit, with the sync button and stuff like that. But
Sure, sure.
yeah, but and as far as like hip hop DJs go, I just think vinyl works better. I don't know. I just like that old school. I guess I'm just an old fuddy duddy, Um, I like scratching. I like all that stuff. I like beat juggling but I mean, you
Yeah,
could do that with new technology too. But it's just something about having the marks on the record and all of that, and
exactly.
knowing where to drop the needle and all of that. It seems really cool to me, and something I never mastered, but I really appreciate and I really admire DJs that can do that.
Right, right, right. Um, and you were saying about like when you were, shopping a gramophone and they would have like the top 10 or the hottest 10 records on the wall or whatever.
Mm.
It's like we're of the age where we are able to know what it was like before the internet, before smartphones with Shazam and all these other apps. Like nowadays, I could be listening to the radio and I just Shazam the song,
Exactly.
instantly know what it is. But back in the
Oh,
day, especially if you're listening to a DJ mix, you're like, what was that song that he played? Like that 2 minutes of a song. Like I have no idea what that is. And you may never find out what that song is. You literally may
yeah,
never find out.
yeah, yeah. And that's when I downloaded Shazam on my phone. I was like, this is the greatest app that's ever been
Yeah.
invented, ever. Like this my childhood would have been so much easier if I just would have had this stupid phone and the stupid app. I would have been able to tell all of the song, pick out all the songs I've ever wanted. But I think back then too, it was kind of fun to go on the hunt, to look to try
Yeah.
and figure out the name of that song or figure out that artist that you like, or maybe even by accident, finding it, finding something that you've never heard before or whatever. Now I think I go to the record store with a list of songs I already know about that I just look for, and a lot of times I find myself not going off that list and not just exploring. I just try and go down the list of things that I know that I want. Whereas before, like in the early days, I would just grab stuff that I thought looked cool or sounded, the name sounded cool or whatever. You know,
Yeah.
I think you know, there's good and bad about both those things. You waste a lot of money, but you might find something that you never expected to find. So,
Right, right. I was in a record store in Pilsen on Sunday. Shout out to 606 Records.
mm,
I had not been there before. It's a really cool shop. In particular, I think you'd like the vibe there a lot. Um, just kind of randomly browsing, and I came across a record. I've always been attracted to taking chances on unknown records. If either the DJ's name or the songwriter's name or the song title or the EP title, if there's any sort of obscenity anywhere in there, I'm immature. So I'm like, oh, I'm gonna check this out. So
right.
there was such an EP in there, and I brought it up to the counter with a couple of other records, and the guy was like, "Oh, do you know who this is? Have you heard this before?" And I'm like, "No, it's just because it says booty hose on it, and I feel like it might be good." And he's like, "No, this is really good. So this is good stuff." And it's exciting when you accidentally find something or take a chance on something. Come home, you throw it on, you listen to it, and you're like, "I was glad I made this purchase." Um,
Absolutely.
there's a sense of accomplishment there. Um,
That's the good part of it. The bad part of it is eventually you'll start to accumulate really bad records
yeah,
that you never
yeah.
really wanted in the first place, or you bring it home and you're like, oh my god, you toss it in the unwanted bin.
I'm never playing this. But see, so when you come across situations like that, do you get rid of them? Because I have records that I know I'll never play, but I still just they're still on my shelf.
No, absolutely not. The more records, the better. So, I mean, I can use them for something. I mean, like I have a cheesy little sampler, so who knows? Maybe there's some little bit on there I can mess with or whatever. So,
Right.
I, I take everything as some sort of value to it when it comes to music. So, I mean, I just recently last year or 2 years ago, Gabby and I went to a friend of the family's who was getting rid of records, and it was mostly records that I probably wouldn't listen to, but they were free records, so I'm not
Yeah.
gonna say no, and I took them. So
Have you ever seen that movie Shaun of the Dead?
yeah, yeah, where he's chucking the
Yeah.
records at.
So at the very least, even if you never end up sampling those crappy records, they can come through in a crunch if you get home invaded
Right,
by some zombies. So
right. If you want a cool floor or something, or wall
right.
treatment, no, I would never do that.
Um, do you have any idea? Speaking about the event, do you have an idea of what type of music you want to spin? I know you were saying, you were going to start digging through your stuff and see if you got, if something grabbed you or whatever. But do you have a preference of playing house and or techno versus hip hop, or just you love them both equally? Or
I'm kind of leaning towards more like hip hop, but more like hip hop beats and stuff, and maybe a little bit of house and techno. But um, we'll see. To be honest with you, I haven't had a chance. I've been having some dog issues, so I haven't had a chance to like really tear through stuff. But um, I think probably mostly hip hop stuff, hip hop beats, stuff like that.
now, do you have a Because I was thinking about this earlier because I just ordered um the Chemical Brothers. I'm trying to one day obtain every Chemical Brothers official release on that there's been. Um, I've got all their studio albums and I've got a good amount of their singles, but now I'm going through the list, like from their earliest releases to their most current releases. And if I don't have one and it's on Discogs and it's in the right price range, I'm just going to get it and, just knock them out. I just want to have them all.
Yeah.
Do you have an artist who you want to just have everything that this person puts out on vinyl?
Oh yeah, probably MF Doom
That
or
I guess, yeah.
S or Madlib. I really like Madlib. Um, let me see. Man, you know, it's hard to say. Like I really am a sucker for anything like hip hop, really.
Yeah.
And anything that's like producer based hip hop. Trying to think of the one guy that I don't have it out. But the Czarface records I really like. Those are
Yeah.
really cool. Anything grimy and gritty with like hard beats. I like a lot of like jazz samples.
Okay.
Anything that has heavy jazz samples in it. Um, I can't really think of anything off the top of my head.
You like Jay Dilla?
Yeah, Oh, yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I see
Along
that.
those along those lines.
I saw that Diggable Planets record that you got facing out too.
Where? Which one? Oh, the first
Rec-
one.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I really like Blowout Comb, their second album, a little bit better, but that one, I have some of their singles on that from that album with some remixes that I love. But oh, and
Nice.
then Ginger, Matt Ginger, our mutual friend, hit me to this guy named Clutchy Hopkins that
Okay.
redid some MF Doom songs or MF Doom tracks, and I love that. That's that. I don't know if you can see it. It's that white one
In the corner?
all the way to the top, one over.
Oh, okay. Okay.
See my finger. I don't know if that worked. Probably didn't work. No.
Yeah, I can, go all the way to the right and then one to the left. I can do
Yeah.
that.
Here, I can walk over there. Whoop! I almost fell. That one.
Oh, nice, nice, nice. Have you
Yeah.
shown that before? I don't know. That looks kind of familiar.
Yeah, I think I played it for you once. It's really it's really good. And there's other stuff that he's done. I've heard a lot of other like beat records from him that are really good. So,
Okay.
but yeah, I'm kind of dug that. What else? Yeah, I don't know. I didn't really pull out anything before you called, so
Yeah, no, just spring it on you or anything.
yeah.
Um, I did want to ask if there's any records out there that are like, do you have like a holy grail list? Do you have records that you have yet to acquire that are just going to be at the top of your Like once you acquire them, they're just going to be your most prized possessions?
I was on a hunt for Liquid Optimo, um,
Oh.
and they finally repressed that record, and I finally got a hold of it. So that was like my one, you know, uh, white whale or whatever you want to call it, that I was looking for. So, and I grabbed that, but other than that, maybe some. I'm looking into like records that were used, like famous records that were used for samples throughout
Sure.
pop. So like the Skull Snaps, and
Hmm.
trying to think of some other ones. Nothing really at the top of my list. Boshtik by Yellow. I just
Oh,
got that
okay.
not too long ago. So
Nice, nice.
that one I checked off. Um, Maybe some obscure like house tracks that I never picked up in the '80s.
Sure, sure.
Here and there. Um, oh, the nude photo remix. I can't remember who did that.
So
Uh,
Rhythm is the original artist, right?
that's it. Yeah, Rhythm is Rhythm. There's a remix of that um, on the flip side of one of those releases that has this really cool like remix that I never got. A friend of mine had it, and I wanted to snag it from him, but I never had a chance to. So, um, yeah, that's about it. I mean, I have musical blinders on, so usually when I go to the record store, I only go through the hip hop section and the dance music section.
Sure.
Uh, but there are other records like funk and soul that I'm kind of looking for, but nothing off the top of my head right now. So,
Okay, okay. Well, I don't know. I feel like maybe I don't know how long you thought this was going to take. I didn't know how long we were going to be talking. Uh, it's approaching 32 minutes. I think that's maybe a good point to maybe wrap it up. I don't know.
okay,
I mean,
whatever.
no, I mean, I could, unless you want to keep talking, I can talk about music for,
That,
another hour.
that's fine, man. The Housewives are coming on soon, so I got to watch that.
Oh, which one is that?
I'm not sure which one. You better cut that out. Gabby says I should cut that out. So
No,
maybe
that's not being cut out. That's in the show. I want to know what season it is. Which is it? New Jersey? Is it Orange County? What is it?
it's what? Beverly Hills. It's Beverly
Beverly
Hills.
Hills.
Yeah, I think that's
Okay.
with Dorinda, or no? Dorit. I don't know. Dorito. I don't know what their names are. So
Well, I hope you guys enjoy the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills and watching
thanks.
Dorito.
Thanks. Maybe we could Skype and watch it together if you want.
Oh, I mean, that's definitely an option. I kind of have to step out right now, unfortunately, but
Oh, well, okay. Next time though. Maybe tomorrow. I can always record it and we could, whatever.
you know what? Record tonight, and then I'll get back to you on the watch session.
Okay.
Uh,
Cool. Cool.
but uh, but yeah, thank you for joining me for this discussion. I'm really looking forward to watching you spin at the event on June 15th. Um, so as and you don't have to worry. Not that you are worried. Maybe you have supreme confidence in your abilities as a DJ. Um, I'm going to be spinning, and I'm going to be the worst one there. So you'll only be second worst. At,
I don't
so
think so.
so just keep that feather in your cap. There's like, well, I'm not going to be as bad as Angle, so it'll be fine.
Whatever. Now that you say that, I'm probably gonna knock over the equipment or something.
This is what I was doing. I was doing the reverse jinx. I was getting into
Right.
your head right now. All right. Well, thanks for taking the time, Mike, and say bye to Gabby for me. Um, and we'll be talking to you soon.
All right. Cool, man. Nice talking to you.